every single thing in your life that you don't like or don't like about yourself is simply a pattern from your past that is looking to complete itself. When you fully understand how this process works, it can make the healing process so much more simple and effective. In this video, I'm going to be explaining this in detail, like where these patterns come from, how to start looking for the patterns, the mechanics of how this works in an effort to help you figure out ways to complete these things so you can actually shift your life. My name is Adam. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Before we get started for today, I just want to let you know I'm doing a few more free breakthrough calls. There's a link pinned in the comment section below. So a breakthrough call is simple. It's just a 30-minute call where we get on Zoom and I help you go over kind of where you're stuck and blocked in your life. So you can get some information on how to shift these patterns so you can move into the life that you want. So when I first started healing, it just seemed like this endless nightmare of confusion. I had all these emotions coming up and things in my body that didn't feel good, and my head was just constantly negative and screaming at me. I was exhausted, and mostly what I was confused. I was just confused because I didn't know what was going on and I didn't know what to do about it. Now, life can be quite complicated. It can be, and the healing process can be complicated and frustrating. But I find that when you have a framework for kind of what you're doing or a structure, it simplifies things so much. It's like, I don't know how many actors I have watching these videos or this particular video, but as an actor, when you get a script for a scene, if you just look at the lines and try to memorize all the different words, it can give you a headache because you're sitting there going like, well, how do I say each word? How do I say each line? You try to memorize everything on the page and you still don't really know what you're doing. But when you figure out what it is that your character wants, when you find what your objective is, all of a sudden, a lot of the lines just take care of themselves. And so it's my intention here to explain that a little bit with the healing process. So we have a few different core basic nervous system responses that are important to understand. Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Okay, so if you boil down the healing process to, physical, emotional, mental, and then spiritual is kind of the combination of all of them in a way. Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn at the root level are sort of physical. It's like your body wanted to fight in a particular situation, or it wanted to run, or it couldn't do any of those things, so it froze. That's what happens when we're children, when we have a trauma. So say that you're looking as a child to get out of a particular situation, but you can't. So your body wanted to run away. That's what your physical body wanted to enact, running away, to get out of the room or to get out of the house or to get out of the relationship, but it couldn't. And so what happens is it's like the gears in your nervous system kind of lock. There's these things from your past that you wanted but didn't happen. And so what then happens is that energy gets trapped within your body, and your body, somehow our brains store every memory of everything that's ever happened to us. They've actually shown this, and people have had their skulls open up and had certain parts of their brain stimulated, and they will go fully back into experiences that they had completely forgotten, like every detail, every sensation. Some part of us remembers everything. So we're basically storing all our experiences, and those experiences get stored in the body. And so there's these impulses from your past that didn't complete. Now, what also happens, because we're emotional and mental, is you will have an emotion that you felt that also didn't complete, it didn't resolve. There was an anger that you didn't fully get to feel, and then there were thoughts that you had, or that you didn't, get to complete or understand. And what will happen is that all of them kind of combine, and then you'll formulate a belief system. So a belief system is just like a set of sort of thoughts and really emotions that just keep going on so much that it becomes just sort of like a reality. Like examples of belief systems are, I'm not good enough, money is the root of all evil. That's a belief system. I always get my heart broken in relationships. If that's happened 15 times, then it just becomes this belief, right? And the belief system within it will hold thoughts, emotions, and then the nervous system reactions. So if you had a trauma from your childhood where you couldn't get out of a room and you were being yelled at all the time, and you could never speak up, you might develop the belief system that what you have to say doesn't matter, or your voice doesn't matter. And so you then will carry that pattern because it never completed into present time. And in every social dynamic you will have that running underneath the surface very subtly. So anytime someone even asks you a question, you might feel anxiety in your body. You might get super nervous. You might get very confused. You might feel what they call flooded, which is where there's like too much cortisol going to your brain and you can't think clearly, and you won't really know what to say. You will feel that too. You might feel it in your throat. Your throat will physically constrict because there was a pattern from childhood that did not complete. It didn't complete. And so now your whole reality is being informed by this pattern. Mental patterns, you'll have emotional patterns, and physical patterns. When you understand that everything that's going on in your reality that you don't like is the result of a pattern that didn't complete, then you know what your goal is. Your goal is to learn how to complete these patterns. But you also want to complete these patterns on all the levels, physically, emotionally, mentally, and then spiritually we can get into like some more esoteric stuff like other lifetimes and things like that. Okay, so where you want to start with, if you have an issue in your life or a consistent pattern that you keep recreating, maybe you keep drawing in the same kind of boss, maybe you keep drawing in the same kind of partner that doesn't listen to you or doesn't respect you or whatever, or is abusive in a certain sort of way. It probably relates back to your mother or father or a figure like that in your childhood. Where you want to start is to look at the pattern. So what is the pattern that's going on? And this is something you can write out. It's like every time I go to speak up in a meeting, people don't listen to me, or no one listens to my idea, or that may be the result of like how you're being treated. Then also you want to look at what is that pattern as far as how I feel. Every time I go to speak up in a meeting, I feel super nervous. I feel and then so that's kind of the emotion. There's like fear, there's anxiety. Then you want to look at the thoughts too. So what are the thoughts that I have? Every time I go to speak up in a meeting, I have the thought, I'm stupid, nobody's going to listen to me, what I have to say will not be heard, I will be rejected, whatever. Then you also want to look at what happens in your body. And you can do this by, so every time I go to speak up in a meeting, I freeze. My body freezes. I feel constriction in my throat. I feel, constriction in my lungs. I feel tight in my back, whatever it is. So you want to analyze and become aware of the pattern. Then you can start asking questions like, where did this pattern come from? And you may remember a time from childhood where, you were told that, what you have to say is not valid, or just you developed a belief system because you just, every time you spoke up, you would be ignored, or any request you had as a child, you'd be told no. So you still, from that pattern, develop the belief that what I have to say doesn't matter. So then when you identify the pattern and you identify sort of the symptoms or the experiences from that pattern, the next step is to ask what did not complete and what wants to complete. What is needed to complete this pattern? And you're going to want to go back into your past, right? So for like example, if you, every time you go to speak up in a meeting, you get super nervous, the pattern was maybe every time you went to speak up as a child, you got yelled at or shut down. So what wanted to happen when you were a kid? What did you want to have happen? Maybe you wanted to be heard. So then you literally use your imagination to imagine what it would be like to have been heard by your mother. What would that feel like? So the emotion then goes from anxiety because there was no support to feeling supported, feeling listened to, and the anxiety starts to resolve. Then the physical body too, like you just have to play with this, right? So maybe you wanted to get out of the room. So your body's trying to complete running away because you were always shunned or put down. So then you start to act this out too. You play this out. You play out what it would have felt like to have run away. But you have to do that while you're connected to your body and actually feel yourself, imagine yourself running away from that situation. Or maybe you wanted to fight. You wanted to stand up to your mom. Maybe you didn't want to like physically fight, but you wanted to tell her something. So what was it that you wanted to say? Because that was something that didn't complete. There was a desire that you had physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually that did not get to fulfill itself. And then you work that out. You say, Mom, shut up. Mom, I need you to listen to me right now. Mom, whatever it was, because in the meeting, you're re-experiencing all of those things from your mother as a child. And there's a lot of different ways. You can play with this on your own. It's really just using your imagination whilst connected to your nervous system to re-script all of the things and patterns that we have that didn't get to fulfill themselves. So we stop playing them out in our life. And sometimes it will require you to start, most of the time it will require you to start acting different in your life too. You'll need to start standing up for yourself, but you don't have to do that by, flipping out on people. It can be as simple as like when someone asks you to help them move and you're like, listen, no, I can't help you move this weekend. And you never really would say that before. That's starting to complete these patterns from childhood, but you also much of the time have to go back and find out where they came from. So know that there was something that you needed to feel, there was something that you needed to do, there was something that you needed to say, there was something that you wanted to get that you didn't get. It's probably your mother's love or your father's love or their acceptance. And that never completed. There was an incompleted desire. And we're playing out the desires that we had, trying to complete the desires in our reality, but the reality is a reflection of us. So we need to complete our desires as best we can internally first, and then we see the reflection of the completion of the desire in our life, if that makes sense. So let me know if you have any questions on that. Let me know if you have any revelations, breakthroughs. I always love to hear from everybody. Thank you so much to anybody who watches my videos. I appreciate it very much. Other than that, I look forward to seeing you all next time, and bye-bye.